Hey, sugar cakes, how y'all doing today? Today I got a really special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Tyreno. I'm the author of the Mutant Alley series, and I'm here to answer a few questions. Hopefully.
Hey, Tyranno. So, where did the idea of Mutant Alley come about, and when did you decide you wanted to make it 3D models?
That's a good question. Usually, I think the idea for Mutant Alley came because I really, really like science fiction and I really like dinosaurs for all of my life. And so I think um, th- these two elements were just a perfect match. When I initially created the game, I haven't had a deep story in mind. But while working on the game, I actually came up with this idea of dinosaur soldiers that have been created and that were sent to war, and now they are basically useless to the government. And so, since they are not allowed to be real citizens, they have to sell their bodies. And I think that was a great way to come up with a kinky scenario in which I can have Mutant Ellie take place.
Interesting. I like that. Do you know what show that premise kind of reminds me of?
I think the plot is actually quite generic, so there should be really
Yeah.
really a lot of things that
It
remind you of. But
it
yeah,
specifically, probably because the main character in this show is like hot. Beauty and the Beast on CW. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
nope.
It kind of basically had the same premise. A lot of people were upset with it because it wasn't Beauty and the Beast, a beautiful woman with this beast. It was literally this man from the military that had been injected with some experimental serum that made him some type of super soldier.
Yeah,
And
okay.
that was kind of the premise. The main chick was a cop and she was fighting, and there's this other creature, quote unquote, running around wreaking havoc. And she found out it was a man. She fell in love with him because he was hot. It turned out he was like a super soldier. It was cute. It was nice. And then you found out there were other super soldiers abandoned by the government and running around. It was a cute. It started off as like a crime detective show and just turned into like this supernatural kind of
Now,
science
okay, okay,
fiction show. The first season
that's
is
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the first season is very different from the latter seasons. The first season plays like a detective crime of the day show, who did this, and then the later seasons go more into the secret organization that had injected these soldiers, these military people with this, and finding rogue military people. It was a cute little watch.
Okay, that's actually quite interesting
Mm,
because somehow somehow these two kinds of stories seem to be seamlessly integrated.
mhm.
The lab and sci-fi story and the detective. And the reason I find this funny is because the first Mutant Alley novel is about the overall world building and the science project, and it has more of a. I don't want to put any spoilers out, so it
Mhm.
has more of a sci-fi story. And the second novel is pretty much a detective story. And
Oh.
the funny the funny thing is that these were in the 80s there were so many bad dinosaur puppet movies,
Mm.
and these were picking up the very same story elements. And I kind of I I find I found those movies quite cheesy,
Mhm.
but the overall idea was very nice. And I thought, how about taking this to a kinky scenario? And
Yeah.
so I kind of rebuilt my childhood fantasy. It's like my pervy version of 80s dinosaur movies,
Yeah. Oh, well, that's
but
interesting.
hopefully not so not but hopefully in a not so cheesy way.
Oh no. From what I read from the first book, no.
The second book is actually the series was planned as a one book only. And while writing it, I decided that I have so much more to tell. And so
Hmm.
when I finished the first novel, I just started writing the second one, and it's kind of I haven't slept for 48 hours.
Oh my
I wasn't
gosh.
eating. I just had to get this out, and the book was kind of writing itself. And
Hmm.
Actually, I really liked how the first book turned out, but the second book so far, as for my personal opinion, is the even better read
Oh, okay.
for my personal taste. It's more funny, it's more kinky, and it has a lot of new elements to it, and it introduces actually two new characters, and the third book, which is also already written,
Oh.
then will incorporate all of the characters. And yeah, I really enjoy writing about these characters and writing about the story, and I kind of can't stop writing.
What was it like to jump from game design to writing, in a novella sense? How was that different?
When I come from a software development background. I'm a professional software developer, and I've worked for the space industry as well as the
Oh.
military complex.
Oh.
So yeah, but it's actually quite more boring than you would expect. And I was afraid to write games for a long time uh, because everybody told me, oh, it's super complicated and stuff, and so I hired someone to write a game for me, and it turned out terrible. And I figured out that with one short tutorial, I could come up with something better in only 1 week, and that
Mm.
kind of got me hooked since I do the modeling myself. I
Hmm.
wasn't requiring to hire people for assets and stuff, and so I just wanted to. 1 second. So I just wanted to keep going, and
Yeah.
what fell out was the first Mutant Alley part, and
Mm.
then I thought that I could do better, and I created Mutant Alley Dino Hazard. But in the meantime, Unity decided to change their policy, and so I switched to Unreal, and I had to kind of go over the whole development intro again.
Hmm.
But I actually must say that I really prefer Unreal now. It allows me to do uh, more complex games in a way in a shorter time. But however, how I got from there to writing novels, um, let me think about how I can say it. I always had these fantasy stories in snippets in my mind since my earliest childhood.
Hmm.
I've had ideas about scenarios, and I always thought about, man, wouldn't it be cool to put it in a novel? Um, but most of my audience isn't really readers, and a lot of people in the fandoms aren't readers as well. I thought, and I was told so. But it turned out that there are a lot of people that are into novels,
Yep.
and I've I've always loved to read and to write myself, but I've never published something because I was afraid that people wouldn't be interested in it, and so I decided to put my energy into game development and animations. First in the animations, um, then it wasn't enough to tell more of the story. I wanted to have it to be more immersive, and
Hmm.
then game development was the more was the next natural step. And now, since I have a huge followership, um, I thought that maybe this is the perfect time to start a novel because it is something I've always wanted to do. I was terribly afraid that I'm not good enough to write a novel,
Hmm.
and so in the first run I tried to to actually hire ghostwriters, and I told them my idea for the first chapter, and I've sent it out, and I've received a few examples, and it wasn't going the direction I was looking for, and
Hmm.
so I tried to do it myself. And while doing it, I was so much enjoying it that I kept going and kept going and kept going, and I ended up with a novel.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was pretty much it. And now I can't imagine not write to not write
Yeah.
whilst but while also working on games, of course.
Yeah. You got your own page on Amazon. You're an author now.
I'm yeah.
How has reception been for the book?
So far pretty good, but actually
Hmm.
the book felt very good.
Okay.
Um, I I'm selling on Amazon and on Fusselschwarm with a huge furry related comic and novel and board game trader,
Hmm.
probably the biggest in Europe. And he's selling
Oh.
the book as well. And he told me that the book is actually selling very good as well. He sold it at the Eurofurence, and yes, so far it sells very good, and the receptions so far are also very good. And what really, I mean, there are a few negative reviews, which is normal
Hmm.
because you can't create something that everybody likes, so that's fine. But the overall, I think I have like over 76 or 78% 5-star receptions, and yeah, that's quite good so far.
Wow, that is pretty good. So, what was your decision behind making these dinosaurs all muscly?
Yeah, because I think I was always into buff guys, and I actually like to work out myself. And
Hmm.
so, since the Scaly community seems to be into buff guys,
Hmm.
it was quite the match.
Yes, it was a match made in heaven. So, when you were coming up with the personality for Aries, what was going through your head?
Good, good question. Actually, as most of the time, nothing, because I'm more of a I'm not I'm not very structured in approaching a project. I usually do something like I sit down or I have an idea and then I sit down and then I try something, and if my gut feeling tells me that that's matching or that's good, I stick with it, and if not, I discard it. And
Hmm.
with Aries, it was the same. I thought, okay, which personality he could have, and for it, of course, it has to be a very dominant personality. But what I really, I'm not so much into this super dry. How do you say? Okay, so I'm not a very serious guy, and
Hmm.
so although I wanted Aries to be very dominant, I don't want it to be him very serious as well. So it was important to me to deliver this super macho behavior while making the people while making it a bit funny and a bit more entertaining. I think
Yeah.
this is more interesting, especially when you're portraying a lot of kinky scenarios. If you would take the humor out of Mutant Alley, whether the game or the book, I think it would be quite dark, and it would probably at some point turn people off. Especially with the scenarios you have in the book, because a lot of them could be laid out as non-con. But
Hmm.
for some reason, if you keep this comedy element, it loosens up things and people won't perceive it as dark. It's entertaining and it's yeah, I think I think it's way more accepted by people, and plus everybody loves to laugh. So
Yeah, it
I
comes
think
off,
that
it definitely comes off more like people are just kind of fooling around than as opposed
yes,
to dramatic things happening. It's like, why didn't you tell me you were going to pull the handcuffs out? You know, some stuff like
yeah,
that.
yes. Plus life is serious enough, so we don't want it in games and novels. Yeah,
Hmm.
yes.
So, you are working on more gaming projects at the same
Hmm.
time of working on these books. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these games you're coming out with?
Yes, there are actually three projects. Um, I have one. I planned a reboot on Unreal, but while working on the game, I wanted to create a game base first, so that I may. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a new Mutant Alley with the same point and click stuff as the first.
Hmm.
um, so I created a game base which allowed me to do a lot of more things like in the first game, but kept the original vibe of just being able to play the game with a single mouse click, and then activating animations and interacting with the character. While writing that game base, um, I had support from a few people, a few of my friends who wanted to come up with a own furry game, related game, which was interesting because I'm into that as well. And so I offered them to create the basic game design to be open to be used for their game project as well as my Mutant Alley reboot. And yes, it the project is called Bound Beast. It's a BDSM simulation um, where you can do things to your characters. You have female and male characters. You have a clothing system. You have different toys. You have different,
Mhm.
let's say, stations,
Yeah.
environments. And an interesting new feature is that you can actually ask the characters for their not for their permission, but for their preference. For example, if you want to
Hmm.
use a toy on them, you can hover your mouse over the toy, and then they will either take their head or not if they like it, and they will. They have a six state. They have six mental states: being angry, being annoyed, being in pleasure, being in max pleasure, and neutral. And based on what you do to them, they will react and change
Hmm.
their mental state. Yeah, that's and
Oh.
this game will be the game base for my Mutant Alley reboot. On probably a more for my patrons, the more interesting project right now is the Mutant Alley District,
Hmm.
which I wanted to be an open world game where you can play areas and Daedalus. And I planned the game to take place in a huge city, and I actually got quite far in the development, and I
Oh.
really enjoyed it. And the game was accepted very well. But the problem is that it became so complex that I couldn't handle it myself. For example, I would need tons of voiceover to be commissioned. I need tons of new character models, and it was simply too complex to carry on. But I really
Hmm.
liked the idea, and so I decided to really focus on the game concept, but
Hmm.
in a smaller area. So I decided to reboot the project, and now you can you have not a real open world game, but you can play in the Mutant Alley. You have
Oh.
a third person. You have a third person character where you are Ares, and you can freely interact with your environment. It has stage physics. It has tons of interactables, and it will have even more interaction than the original Mutant Alley District, but in a way more manageable way for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's uh, what I'm working on right now. I'm currently blocking out the basic environment and the the player controller and stuff. And yeah, hopefully I will be able to launch a preview alpha build within the next month.
Sounds fun. Districts was really fun. I like kicking and punching people.
That's what definitely will be in there as well. But besides that, for example, you can now, if you run into a pile of trash cans, they will fall off and stuff, and you will be able to use phones and vending machines and stuff. So it will have
Ooh.
all the elements of the of it. It is it still is Mutant Alley Districts, but
Hmm.
more in it is more melted down to the actual district and not in the entire city.
Yeah.
So every mechanics of the first one, of the first initial draft, if you want to call it this, will be in there, but even more. And I will focus more on polishing the actual mechanics. And I want to take myself a bit of time for this because I tend to. I really tend to rush things and
Hmm.
get stuff out because I'm afraid that people will call me lazy if I don't do so. But
Yeah.
probably probably I should take my time for this.
Yeah. When I was playing it, it was almost giving me Goat Simulator vibes, which is really funny because tomorrow, for everyone watching, as far as we're recording, tomorrow they are releasing the Patrick Star game, which is Goat Simulator, but with Patrick from SpongeBob in an open world.
Cool.
So that style of game is starting to get really popular. So I think that one's going to take off for sure. Aries running around, being bashful, doing what he did. You could act out what you did in the book. I just thought about that.
Yes. The game will be more closer to the book. I will add a lot of elements from the book, and yeah, that's also a reason why I wanted to take myself time. Now that I have a real background story, I don't have to guess things anymore. I know what should be in there, and it's kind of having a finished concept and then building a game around it instead
Mm-hmm.
of building a concept around a game.
Yeah. So tell us about your other game, Raptors. How was that one?
Reptoid was
Oh,
pretty
Raptoid.
good. Yeah, it was pretty good accepted on itch.io, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow on Steam not that much. Probably I haven't done a lot of advertising for it because I don't know what there was a project I've had right after this. Probably it was Mutant Alley Districts. I can't remember actually, but I didn't do a lot of advertising for it, and
Mm-hmm.
so probably um, yeah, this is it. It so far it is it it was it was accepted, but it is my least selling game so
Mm-hmm.
far.
And I just thought about it. How did you go from Mutant Alley Primal to Mutant Alley District?
Um, Primals was more of a Primals was more a proof of concept, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still it's I ran into the same problem I've ran into with Mutant Elite Districts. Now I started it as an open world RPG. Um, I used Unity back then,
Mm-hmm.
and it became it became more complex than I could deliver on my own.
Yeah.
So I ceased the development,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was looking more for something that is yeah something you can just start and play, but that's not a sex something that's more interesting. Maybe a 2D platformer because a lot of furries are into 2D platforming games, and so since it's a Tyranno game,
Mm-hmm.
it has to have BDSM elements and dinosaurs, and so I came up with the idea of Reptoid.
Well, I enjoyed the alpha build for what it was. I do think that District had a lot more potential because Primal was giving me, I don't know if you've ever played the game Ark.
Yes,
I thought you might have, because
yeah.
don't you ride dinosaurs? I think you ride dinosaurs in Ark. I can't remember. I think you either kill the
You can, yes,
Mm-hmm.
you can. I haven't played it that much. I
Mm-hmm.
mostly saw reviews and videos, but yeah, as I said, it was more of an experiment that turned
Mm-hmm.
out not to be deliverable.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully districts will. Hopefully, I will have learned my lesson, and the new district should be way better.
Well, with game development, any type of development, movies, TV, book writing, comics,
Hmm.
there's different stages you have to go through. There's different,
Hmm.
sometimes you have to go through different prototypes and different games to get to see what worked and, get to the thing that was really meant to be made.
That's true, but
Hmm.
it's oftentimes not that easy
No, it's
because
not.
even if you come up with a good with a good prototype and show it to people, and for example, when I showed the first previews of Reptoid around, everybody loved it.
Hmm.
I've gotten so good feedback, but in the end, people weren't that interested when the final game was out. So even if you have a good prototype that is well accepted, it's not a guarantee that something will actually sail. And that to be mentioned, it is. I don't do art to get rich or get a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, but the point here is that actually selling my games and my novels and having a well running Patreon site
Hmm.
enables me to do art. Um, and so I have I have to rely a bit on my income there in order to be able to keep up. In order to deliver art, I have to make money with art, and that's what a lot of people don't get. So I I still do have a regular job, and due to my Patreon income and all the sales on Steam and itch.io, I was able to cut this down to like 3 or 4 hours a day, and I can entirely work in the home office. Um, and I wouldn't be able to do that without my income from my art. So I basically do 3 to 4 hours of regular work, and then I do 6 to 8 hours or more for my own stuff, and this is really important to me. And so I have to look out that what I create. I mean, my Patreons are pretty forgiving. I can do stuff. I can do projects that don't work out for a time or that are
Yeah.
a bit experimental. That's okay for them. But in the end, I have to ensure that I come up with something that I can actually also sell. Because if I can't sell it, I wouldn't be able to go on with my art in this
Yeah.
way that I want. And especially, a lot of people also don't realize that it's actually pretty costly. I mean,
Mhm.
creating a game like Mutant Alley, you have to buy third party assets because you just don't have a month or two to create an alley, and you have to pay voice actors, you have to pay licensing for software such as Substance and Photoshop and
Mm.
whatnot. And yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people really don't realize the money that goes into things like game design, and that you have to make that money back to be able to continue to do it. Because I
I,
remember being a kid and saying, I'm going to make my own game. And of course, there's little free softwares you can use to make a game. But if you don't have a month or two to draw assets and record your voice on top of the coding, you're going to have to purchase assets, purchase voice actors, hire an artist, even at times buy a subscription to whatever gaming software that you're using. And that can, that the price just rises, right? But by then you spent like $3,000 to $5,000.
yes,
And go ahead.
yes, no,
Mhm,
that's absolutely that's you're spot on
mhm,
with that. Um, Plus, even if you could do a few things, for example, I could sit down, I could create in Substantator a whole alley, but the
mhm,
thing is, the quality that I would be able to come up with for, let's say, buildings and stuff would be not even close to what you can purchase on the asset store. And
mhm.
I get that a lot of people critique so-called asset flips, where you
Yeah,
open a game and you can see where the assets have been purchased, and that it's not matching very well. But I think it is very unrealistic to
mhm,
to um to come up with self-made assets in that quality and in that short amount of time. And
mhm.
if you compose the assets in a way that looks good, it can work.
It can. And a lot of game,
Yes.
maybe not the big AAA game companies, but a lot of game
Yeah, of course.
companies reuse their own assets. Like they'll have a game from 3 years ago and they're reusing the buildings, reusing some of the character models. So
Yes.
even big game publishers reuse their own assets.
Yes. And not only for cost reasons, but because in the end, you want to come up with something in the fastest possible way,
Hmm.
because assets are one of the most important parts to a game, but it is not as important as the actual implementation of the game. And the
Yes.
more if you spend more time creating assets than working on the gameplay and the stuff around, you end up in a dead project very soon.
Hmm.
I've did a lot of collaborational game projects, and the funny thing is that all of these projects ran into the same type of problem. Um, I was doing the implementation, and at some point, assets have to be created.
Hmm.
And a lot of people were like, okay, we can't use assets from the asset store because that wouldn't be authentic. And then people started to create assets by themselves and then realized that it is so much work that it would take months or even more. And in the end, all the projects were ceased. And yes, I think if you want to if you want to get something out, you have to go by the premise of action over perfection.
Yeah.
I think this is important. This doesn't mean that you deliver something that looks shitty or is super buggy. I mean, uh, my games have bugs too. I'm very aware of that. Um, but I think at some point you have to stop polishing and you have to put out something because there
Hmm.
are so many talented people out there who could create so awesome games. Um, and they are capable of doing things that make me want to hide under a table and
Wow.
they simply don't come up with something on their own because they can't stop polishing on one single thing
Hmm.
because they want it to be perfect. And let if you have like 100 tasks you have to do and you're sticking with task one for a month polishing, then you will never get to a point of release.
Yeah, that's really true. So we've talked about the dinos, but you've got some
Mhm.
other characters out there. How are you going to go about some of your other anthropomorphic characters in the future? Are they going to make appearances? Are they going to have their own games or stories?
Yeah, I think mostly I will focus on the dinosaurs. I mean,
Hmm.
I haven't created so much. There are a few anthropomorphic horses, which I like. And funnily, there will be. I've also written a novel about an anthropomorphic horse.
Oh.
It's actually currently in the editing, and I should receive the final copy, the final edit within the next weeks. So that's probably how they will end up.
Oh, that's fun.
Um, but currently, yeah, I think I only have two original characters, which are Aries and Daedalus, and the rest are just simply models without a name and
Hmm.
personality. This may change in time. I don't know. I actually have to create a few new models at some point. I
Hmm.
since the modeler for Bound Beasts stopped, and so I had to jump in and do all the character models. So probably I should create a few new characters for my own games as well.
Hmm.
But besides doing it besides game dev actually eats up even more time. So I have to be careful to not to not get tangled up in too many things because I'm working on two game projects and publishing and writing books and yeah, doing everything in between like modeling assets and modeling.
Hmm.
And so yeah, at some point I really could use a clone of myself. But
Well, tell us all the ways we can support you.
currently the best way to support me is via Patreon.
Hmm.
Um, I do have a Subscribestar account, but I think I only have like 2 or 3 subscribers over there because people really don't like Subscribestar for some reason.
Yeah.
So the main my main funding is currently done via Patreon. And of course, if you purchase my book or my games that like on Steam, Amazon, or itch.io. I
Yeah.
think the best the if you visit my homepage,
Hmm.
you can find out all the ways to support me, and you can simply choose what fits best for you. It simply takes up for Tyranno.com,
Hmm.
and I think yeah.
So, is there anything you wanted the audience to know?
Not really. I think I'm a quite uninteresting guy. I
Oh,
think the
don't
most
say that.
interesting. I think the most interesting thing about me and my life is my fantasy, and the rest is really not that important. And I just want to get my fantasy out there, and if people can pick that up, I think that's really what I want to go for. For example, if you allow me to add this, um, I've received a few comments about my book where people are like, "Oh man, I loved Aries so much," and they were asking if they could write a fanfic and stuff, and of
Oh,
course they are
okay.
allowed to. And they told me that they really started dreaming their own fantasy stories about him and in the Mutant Alley realm. And I think this is probably the most important thing, at least to me, you can achieve as an artist, because this
Hmm.
is like a part of your fantasy lives on in someone else, and this is really what I'm interested in. This is why I do all of that and why I work so hard. And yeah,
Oh, that's great. Having fan art of your characters. That's like the biggest like honor that people are just like, oh my gosh, I need to draw fan art of them.
yeah, I really liked it, and yeah,
All right. So, any closing comments?
no, not really. I'm sorry. This is my first interview.
Nah, you're good. Well, audience, I will highly recommend the Mutant Alley games. You can get them both on Steam and on itch.io. I think Mutant Alley 2, I think that one has VR, doesn't it?
Yes,
Oh,
a Dino Hazard. It was called Dino Hazard, but at some point, I don't know if I should tell that, but I I've gotten a mail from a real life paleontologist from
oh,
Brazil, and who happened to be the trademark holder of a series called Dino Hazard. So I had to change the name. The funny thing is that I've used that name long before he actually started the trademark, but in order to not run into any legal troubles, I've had to remove that name from the game, and so it's now only called Mutant Alley, which is a bit misleading because now there are two titles, Mutant Alley, and one is the one with VR support, and that looks
mm-hmm.
better, and the one is the other one is the old um, game.
Mm.
But yeah, I had to do that. It caused a bit of confusion, but yeah, you
They're,
don't want to mess with paleontologists.
yeah.
But for some reason, I was wondering if he actually took a look at the game and what. Man, I would love to have to see his face. Yeah,
That is kind of,
not for stealing, not for using his the name Dino Hazard. I can't say his name, but he's
yeah.
actually on documentaries and stuff. Yeah, and I was watching one of his documentaries, and I was like, dude, I wonder how he reacted when he first saw Aries, and yeah, I find it kind of funny.
I wonder if he just looked at it and tilted his head. He was like, huh. Nah, that's not what they look like.
But also, or he secretly was into it.
That's yeah. He's sort of like, oh, okay, shoot. No wonder I'm in this field.
Yeah,
But both games are really good, so you can't go wrong with either. And I know the second one has the female.
yeah. She's actually not part of the.
I was
Maybe
wondering,
maybe in future novels.
yeah, because I was wondering, was she the female or one of the females in the novels? Because I don't remember if she had a name in the game.
No, she didn't.
Oh, okay. So I was like, oh, is this her? Is that her? That's cute. But she's not. So okay. That's interesting to know.
The only character from in the novel from the game is Aries, but there are a few other characters that probably will pop up in some future games.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, everyone, this has been me talking with Tales Up for Tyranno. Y'all know where y'all can go support him. You know, we can go see his art over on Fur Affinity, I believe, right?
Yes,
Yeah, Fur Affinity.
but also on X. I probably post more on X than on FA.
Yeah, that's starting to kind of be the thing these days. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, he also has X, formerly known as Twitter, before someone came over and ruined it, even though it was already pretty bad.
True.
But until next time, by the way, guys, we are going to be playing Raptoids on the channel, edited, of course, because we can't show them game over screens on YouTube. Can't show those game over screens, but it will be a good time. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tyranno, for coming and speaking with me in the audience about your book and your games. And we can't wait to see more.
Yeah, hopefully people won't be mad at my shitty English.
Nah, you're good.
I tried my best.
But so everyone, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.